I'll move.
Moved by Israel, second by Dora. Have the roll, please.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. All right, and the next two action items we have two wonderful board members who need to be reappointed for another term. Is there, so I would entertain a motion to appoint Ken Edwards and Israel Palomo as governing authority board members from August 1st to July 31st, 2024.
Gene, I just want to point out that we advised to split these two, just to make sure that
Okay,
Stephanie advises.
okay, very good, very good. So we'll do one. We'll start with Kent, moved by Dora, seconded by Jackie. Go ahead, the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Myself.
Of
oh,
course.
sorry, Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. And
would've said
then
no.
I'll entertain a second recommendation to appoint or motion to appoint Israel Palomo as governing authority board member for a 3-year term from August 1, 21 to July 31, 24. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved by Dora, seconded, or moved by Kent, seconded by Dora. We'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. And now we come to election of officers. Is there a nomination for president?
I nominate Gene.
And I accept that nomination. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the nominations for president?
So.
Moved by Jackie, seconded by Dora. We're not gonna have discussion.
This is for 5 years, right?
Yeah. I'll have the roll.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your vote of confidence, even though nobody else. No. Is there a nomination for vice president? And I'll make it. Kent has been nominated by Dora. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve Kent as vice president?
I'll move.
Moved by Israel, is there a second? Seconded by Dora. And we'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Yes. I should say. All right, next we come to the appointment of board liaison positions, and I've already approached each of the board members about continuing to assume their the same post that they had as last year. And I think that would be really positive because COVID did not really allow us to explore those positions and responsibilities. So I would really appreciate that. Is there anyone objecting to the appointment of board liaisons being the same as last year? Is there a motion to accept those appointments? Moved by Dora, is there a second? Seconded by Jackie. And to clarify, Kelsey, then I'll continue as liaison for legislative, Jackie at finance, Dora at personnel, or I'm sorry, Israel at personnel, Dora at professional development, and Kent as sponsor. We'll have the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for being willing to do that. We come to the regular, setting the regular meeting dates and time. And if you recall, we do this as a group, as here, although there have been times that at other times of the year, sometimes we shift to an earlier time, especially during those winter months. So that we'll entertain that at the time, but otherwise, our meetings are going to be set at the third Tuesday of the month as they're listed here. Is there a motion to approve the setting the regular meeting dates as listed? Moved by Dora. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Israel. Any discussion? We'll have the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. We'll proceed with the approval of the regular board minutes for June 15th. Those were provided to us. Are there any, is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted? Moved by Dora, is there a second? Seconded by Jackie. Any discussion? If hearing none, we'll have the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Thank you for moving through that. And we'll turn now to Mr. Kurt for the sponsors report.
So just so the board, TCS knows, this is a safe harbor for compliance and what we're doing with that. We are still doing the full report. I appreciate working with Ryan, Kelsey, and Jean. We met the other day out here, and we went through like corrective action measures and what we're doing. So even though it's a safe harbor here, we didn't want to look like we just let our guard down, didn't do anything. So we stayed together and worked on things. There are some things coming out that we need to work on. Many times at larger districts, there's more transportation safety plans and whatnot. Margaret has never had that. That was one of the dings we got. So I just told Ryan before the meeting, we're working on it right now that we'll have out. I don't think it's going to help us with this compliance, but it'll definitely help us with next year. So we're working together on putting that together. The summer seamless program for lunches and breakfasts is in place. We've worked with Ryan to be able to provide your students breakfast and lunch throughout the whole school year for this upcoming school year. Understand, I just told my board last night, I don't think the summer seamless, and I'm hoping that we're back to full normal at least by the 22-23 school year. We'll have in place, working with Ryan, our ability to satellite lunches and breakfasts to you, and we'll have that all worked out for next school year. This year, we're covered under the summer seamless, where we can just flow meals over to you once you report what you need. Beyond that, Ryan just came up and asked me before the meeting, where are we at with masks? Well, it started on the moving target right now, because last Friday, the CDC came out and said that all transportation, including public school buses, will be wearing a mask. The driver and riders will wear masks. So that just came out. And now there's other things coming out about you cannot make students take the vaccination. It's a choice. So that's all coming out. My phone's blowing up because the area superintendents want to meet with the health department and the ESC superintendent. And I think that meeting will be Thursday. I will report directly to Ryan everything that happens at that meeting when I come out of that meeting.
Right.
And I think the county schools in the past, we try to do similar and stay together, but I'm just telling you, politically, we're gonna have a hard time with kids not wearing any mask all summer, putting masks back on kids. So I mean, and the thing it is, it's already come out from the governor. You can't do discipline because of masks. So, okay, I tell you, you have to wear a mask, and then you don't wear a mask, and there's nothing I can do to you. So we're almost in a damned if you do, damned if you don't, excuse my language, but I don't know how you even do anything with that because there's no enforcement. So it's almost like wear a mask if you want. And that's how I think we should roll is it's a personal choice. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Now we are going to keep our plexiglass barriers. We're going to keep our fogger machines and our disinfectants. We're going to try to have a minimum of 3, hopefully 6 feet away from each other. And I will tell you, we are starting the first week in the elementary hybrid, just because the teachers love the intimacy of working with the kids. And we're actually gonna start up here with the older kids for 2 days, hybrid, just so that we have that breakup where the teachers can work with less kids in their classroom. And then our first full in day is the day after Labor Day. So we have a moving target. You guys do, we do, all the schools do. Between now and when we start school, I don't know where this is gonna go. I think a lot, and you may think I'm wrong, but I think a lot's gonna determine to catapult this on what happens in the Olympics. Because if the Olympics start going down and it's a disaster with the other strand of the COVID, I think then everything's gonna pick up pace to put masks back on and do. Now the information I gave our board last night, right now, Erie County is low incident, 10 cases every week. So that's a low incident. 50% of the residents in Erie County are vaccinated in some way. 47% are fully vaccinated. So we're still less than 50% vaccinated. And the problem I have is, personally, for my own grandkids, these tests have not been vetted all the way. And I've been fully vaccinated, but I'm almost 56 years old. And I don't see why you would vaccinate children when it hasn't passed all the tests. So I can't, and ethically, I can't say vaccinate your kids because I don't think all the tests, it hasn't been vetted all the way. So we're in gray area again, heading back into the year. I thought, you know, if you asked me a month ago, I'd think we're coming back, we're not gonna wear masks. I don't feel that way. Because I know right now they're telling us, your kids coming in our buses will be asked to wear a mask. I just pray that they work with us, and we're have to communicate, Ryan, to everybody. It's not our rule. We didn't make it up. It's coming directly out of the federal government, the CDC. I mean, we have to follow their rules. You know, that's the way it is. It seems like it's harder for adults to do things. Kids are resilient. But my problem is, I can see an 18-year-old senior saying, I'm not wearing a mask. And basically they said there's no discipline, so if he tells me he's not wearing a mask, he's not wearing a mask. So we'll keep you posted. And Ryan, if we meet Thursday, I'll probably call you when I leave that meeting. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And would you want to explain to how Steve's position
Yeah.
is
So-
compliant?
So Steve's moving into full administration. We absorbed an administrative position, so he's full assistant principal for the middle school and high school. I did approve last night a supplemental for him to continue to be the person with TCS. Our clerical stuff, Pepple Wagner has an administrative assistant that works with about 6 schools, just like you. So she's seeing the language and she's seeing the things. So clerically, she's gonna run the game. Steve's still gonna do our monthly meetings, and he's gonna attend your meetings, except tonight, you know, I approved this supplemental and he has to come tonight, so we're off to a really good start. So if you see him, say, man, I had a stick it covered for this week. I'm kidding. But, so he's still gonna be our connection to TCS, which I will do too. But just with so many other responsibilities, we actually felt we wanted to give him a supplemental, a small supplemental. But he's still gonna do those meetings. He's still gonna do the visits. He'll still be here at board meetings, and we'll go from there. But a lot of the clerical is gonna come directly out of Pepple Wagner, and I know Ryan's communicating to them and to Steve. I mean, we'll get that thing going, so it'll be pretty smooth.
Good. Very good. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Are there any questions? Fran? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to liaison reports, and there may or may not be too much to report. Just in terms of legislation, I've got to go to my other agenda because that's where my notes are. As far as president's report, I wanted to draw your attention to a paper that I passed out titled TCS Goals for the 21-22 school year. And I just would hang on to this throughout the year, because this was these were goals that were submitted as part of our blended, as part of our plan submitted to the Ohio Department of Education. These are these are directions that we want to go. I did want to point out to you that there was one change under under sustainability, in that the end, if you look at the first bullet, we want to try to maintain enrollment a minimum of 450 students. Obviously, we'd like more than that. And that through our enrollment efforts and ongoing contact with teachers and staff, we want to encourage student diversity in addition to student engagement and sufficient supports to promote student well-being. That is, I think, with all of the issues that we've seen through COVID, something that TCS has to be aware of. And it's something that we need to explore in terms of data. We used to receive that data as far as where we stood in terms of diversity with our student population. So I want to be sure that we're presenting our program and the things that we're doing in such a way that encourages student diversity throughout all of our programs. The other thing that I wanted to mention under legislative report is that there's going to be a meeting on August 4th with OSBA for the budget analysis. They're going to go through the budget and analyze it for education. I'm hoping to attend that virtually. I know anyone, as far as administrators go, or any board member is able to do that as well. And if you need direction as to how to sign up for that, I'd be happy to help you with that. I think that at this point in time, we don't have anything as far as our liaison reports. I did want Jackie, I know that Kelsey and Ryan would like to get together and talk about the use of the grant funds that we have and kind of plan that out. So that would be a good directive for Jackie to help us with. I know Israel continues to work with personnel. Dora has already talked with Ryan about meeting with the Professional Development Committee and understanding a little bit more our local LPDC committee that we have within the school. And Kent, where he is able, would like to be attending the sponsorship meetings. So we'll be sure to get a schedule for him so that he's able to stay in the loop on those. Is there anything else to report as far as liaisons? All right, we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
I just want to open up your board packets. Past the minutes, we can start with the cash reconciliation. Before we dive in, I just wanted to reiterate, I know this was mentioned in a previous email, but we did receive our PPP forgiveness. So that was that loan that we applied for. And we got it in March. It was around $387,500. And we did get confirmation that we got it fully forgiven. So we won't be paying any of that back. So that's great. Towards the bottom of the reconciliation, you can see at the end of June, we ended with about 2.1 million. If we move on to the disbursement summary, there wasn't anything out of the ordinary in June. I did want to point out one specific disbursement. On the second page, about halfway down, you can see our payment to the Margaretta Board of Education. It's reference number 19448, just to help you locate it. But if you look over to the right, that payment is really high compared to what we normally pay. We processed 2 Margaretta bills in June, so that's why that appears to be so high, just on how the processing bills timed out. Normally it's about half of that, so I just wanted to explain why that's so high. Does anybody have any other questions about the disbursement summary? Next, we have our outstanding disbursement summary. And if there's no questions over that, we can move on to the monthly spreadsheet. Toward the top left for our yearly revenue, I wanted to highlight, we did end the year higher than what was estimated. We're at about 113% of what we estimated for revenue. To the right, our June actual revenue payment, you can see was up slightly. That is again due to the fact that we stopped reporting at the assumed 65% FTE percentage and we started reporting every student's actual attendance percentage. And because we had underreported for the year, they were making up some of that through those payments. So that was slightly higher, which was great. Below that, under the expenses, you'll see that it looks like we had negative expenses for the month for salaries and benefits. That is only because we were able to go back from some salaries and benefits throughout the year, and we were able to move those that had already come out of the general fund into grants. So even though that they were spent throughout the year, because that money was moved in June, that's why those expenses appear negative. At the bottom left, you can see our unencumbered cash balance of our general fund ended at about 1.6 million. And our FTE for the month of June was 542.66. Are there any questions over the monthly spreadsheet?
Just a comment, it's very nice not to see any parentheses in any of that, those bottom cash.
Yes, it was a good month. I know. I was excited to report this month.
Yes.
On the next page, we've got our July payment. One thing I wanted to make note of here, if you go down to the adjustments section and you look all the way to the right, you'll see that those positive adjustments that we were getting from the state are now gone, as we knew they would be. And now we're making the 8% of our revenue paybacks to the state. That's us paying back the debt that we owe based on that repayment schedule that we previously went over. Following our July payment page, we've got our June FTE report. Again, we had 542.66 FTEs.
Would you attribute the drop from last month then to our graduations?
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
were-
For graduates, yeah. And then our final item for the treasurer's report is the recommendation to approve Julian and Groove to complete our gap reporting for the 2021 fiscal year. Just as a refresher, these are the generally accepted accounting principles. They prepare our basic financial statements for the fiscal year. There's a lot of detail in the proposal, but if you'll skip ahead to page 6 of 7, the second to last page, you'll see that we've got 3 options for our contract. We can choose to do a 1-year contract and the cost would be $3,100. If we do a 2-year contract, it'll be $2,800 per year. 3-year contract, it would be $2,600 per year. So depending on what we want to do.
And I might add, this is really a process that we really need to go through according to Dickinson, right? And the auditors.
Isn't this what, when Jack was here, he didn't do it, and this state, he paid like a fee. and he didn't do
We
it.
paid a penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got dinged every single time. Yeah, so we're trying to do right. Is there a motion to, did you have anything else?
That's all I've got.
Very good. Before we move on to the motion, I do know that Kelsey's very interested in feedback from the board as to information that you would like and how you would like information presented. So as we look at what she did this evening, what is required as a treasurer report, Kelsey, can you tell us what is required?
We do need to approve the financial reports, the payment of the bills and the cash reconciliation.
Okay.
So those are required. The monthly spreadsheet is something that I add in just to kind of summarize, because a lot of the disbursement summary is very long and hard to pick through. But the spreadsheet is just mostly for your benefit, just so I can summarize some of the financial information for you. So if there's anything else that you would like added, or if there's anything that's too much, I'd love to hear from you.
Think you're doing good.
Thank you.
Anything else? And Jackie, that might be something you want to talk about too when you're meeting with them as well. I really like the fiscal year spreadsheet that you have here, just to show where we are in terms of spending for the year. All right, is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report items A through D?
Are we gonna choose what we're gonna do, or is that later on, the 1, 2, or 3 year?
Oh, yeah, you better, let's do that. What is your thought? And then we'll just add it to the motion. On action item D, it says recommendation to approve Julian and Grubb to complete the gap reporting for the fiscal year. As it is stated right now, it's just for 1 year. Should we extend that to 3 years?
I'm fine with that.
I would say we can save some money.
Right. Anybody else object to that? So would you mind, Kelsey, if we changed your recommendation so that it would read reporting for the 2021 through 2023 fiscal years? Thank you, Ken. Is there a motion to approve action items A through D?
So moved.
Second. Okay, moved by Ken, seconded by Dora. Any questions? Discussion? Go ahead, Kelsey.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Salee,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's official.
16 years ago, we just stayed in town.
All right, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Great job, Kelsey.
Yeah, very.
Just a couple of updates before we get to new business. Our administration and our classified staff went through final forms training today. There's a lot there to digest, but we're making good progress, and our hope is to be able to roll these out come the 1st of August, so we can start having students complete their beginning of school year forms, and also start new enrollments as well for the upcoming school year. I did also, yesterday, I notified the Grads Coalition that we were discontinuing our membership as we voted on last month, so they are aware of that. So come the end of July, we will no longer be members of the Grads Coalition. For our new business, we have 19 items here, and items A through S. The plan here is to vote on all of these items together unless there is a request to vote on the items separately. Just let me know if you do wish to vote for any items separately.
Ryan, before we go on, could I just ask where we stand with our FTE review?
Yes, we've had a couple follow-up emails, one from Elena Sanders last week, who was requesting some time logs that she could not locate. Some she had, some we had not provided. So I gave her some of the items, and some of the items we did not have. And then we had a follow-up email today that I have not gotten to yet from them. So they're still working through that process, but I know they're getting further along towards completing that FTE review.
Okay. Second question, summer school, report on summer school.
We've had some students coming in. I wouldn't say there's been a lot, but it's been beneficial to a lot of students. I know Tara's been very busy renewing license in VLA, so we have a lot of students who are active. Most of them doing that remotely though, and not necessarily coming into the building. And Tara, do you have anything else to comment on with that?
Yeah, there's a lot of students working on like surprisingly. Every day, the teachers that are in here working over the summer have a list of not only their students, but the teachers that aren't working throughout the summer that they're going and grading their work for. We are still having some students drop off paper stuff that they have through the end of this month to finish too. So as we get that either dropping off in person or in the drop box outside, we're getting that graded, letting them know, hey, you need to come back in, you've only got a few more days to get that done, so. They have to leave next week to finish up that, so, yeah, there's been a good turnout for the summer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just a reminder on those licenses, we renew those every 3 months, and that was more better financial option for us as opposed to issuing a full year license for each student, because with our population, sometimes they're transient. So every 3 months, we are doing an extension, basically. So over the summer, some of these students that are working, they'll come to that date where their license ends, and they'll give us a call, and we'll get a renewed that day, just to make sure that they still have the opportunity to log on and complete work.
Is it difficult to renew, or is it, I mean,
It's not, I mean, you know,
like you have everything, you just gotta like.
It's time consuming.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's, you know, you gotta date it, put it in, and just the piece of renewing it doesn't take too long, making sure all the classes, but then, you know, we're recording when the license is up in one spot, so we have to update that, but. I mean, I wanna say we're getting at least 5 or 6 calls a day about renewing licenses, so good turnout, really.
Thanks.
Very good, thank you.
So back to new business here. Item A is recommendation to approve the awarding of high school diplomas to the following students listed who have completed their graduation requirements this past month. Item B is a recommendation to waive the reading of minutes with the understanding that such minutes will be distributed to members prior to the date of each meeting for the 2021-2022 school year. Item C is a recommendation to authorize the treasurer to invest interim funds for the 2021-22 school year. Item D is a recommendation to authorize the treasurer to pay bills, provided that funds are available, and to report to the board of directors those bills that were paid for the 21-22 school year. That was item D as sent in the email earlier.
Right,
So
so
this is the
one.
updated version after taking out the item D, the item T from earlier. Yeah.
Misunderstood.
Yeah, I apologize for
Right.
that. Item E is a recommendation to authorize the superintendent to approve or disapprove of applications for professional meeting leave for staff that conform to established board policy and that are within the amount appropriated for such activities for the 21-22 school year. Item F is a recommendation to authorize the superintendent to employ such temporary personnel as needed for emergency situations and present the board for approval and ratification of employment contracts at the next board meeting for the 21-22 school year. Item G is a recommendation to authorize the superintendent and treasurer to act as agents of the board in submitting applications and management of federal and state grant funds for the 21-22 school year. So items B through G there are basically annual items that we traditionally approve every year. Moving on to item H. Item H is a recommendation to approve policy 148.6 for credit cards as presented. In your folder, I have provided this policy for you to review. It was also sent earlier. Item I is a recommendation to approve policy 247, which is a credit flexibility policy as presented, which we did have to update the school year. Item J is a resolution to acknowledge not being able to provide breakfast for students during the 2020-21 school year due to financial reasons. This item is on the agenda as we need to approve this as part of our corrective action plan for the sponsor compliance review. Item K is a recommendation to adopt the summer singles program and proceed with becoming a member of the National School Lunch Program for the upcoming school year to provide students with breakfast and lunch. So again, with the summer seamless option being continued, basically we are fortunate we are able to provide the breakfast and lunch for students at no cost, which will be subsidized for the federal funds. And again, Margaret will be working with us to help provide those meals for our students.
And they're working out a system to identify which kids are,
Yeah, we're working with Sarah, basically with the, I believe it's a community option. They could provide those meals for our students, and we just have to track how many meals are being brought over for our students.
okay. It's the next school year that we have to be
Yeah.
concerned about.
There will be
point of
more
sale.
reporting and tracking.
Okay,
following.
all right, very good, sorry.
Good question. Items L, M, and N are all items, are recommendations for tutors here for Sandy Carroll, Carrie Weedenhalf, and Jim King at a part-time rate of up to 25 hours per week at $35 per hour. And I want to stress that L, M, and N, these are made possible through ESSER 2 funds that were made available to us. We recently were notified that we received 1.3 million, I believe we're going to receive for use over the next 2 school years due to COVID-related reasons. And we have to be careful what we use those funds for. There are certain requirements there, but tutors are one of the categories that we can apply that money towards. So again, these are part-time positions, items L, M, and N for tutors Sandy Carroll, Carrie Weedenhalf, and Jim King. Now, Jim just retired on June 1st from Margaretta, so we're going to hold off on his employment until September 2nd, just to make sure that there's no conflict with the 2-month period that he has to be off after retirement. Item O is a recommendation to contract services with Deanna Faber for EVA support at an hourly rate of $50 per hour, up to 20 hours per month. This is one item that will come from the general funds, this expense. Deanna will be very cautious. She will only help Barb basically outside of her work hours at a Hovey. We've had that conversation and she completely understands how that needs to work. Item P is a recommendation to approve Bob Hamilton for full-time position for the 21-22 school year as custodian, sanitization, and food services at a salary of $40,000, and to authorize the treasurer to execute the necessary contracts to effectuate his employment. Again, this item here, item P, is also another action item that's made possible through the ESSER 2 funds, especially because we're looking at Bob more as sanitization and custodial duties to help Rick out with custodial duties. His food services duties are going to be much less. He will help distribute the meals that Margaret provides for us, but he will not be making food this year. Item Q is a recommendation to have RJ Beck install a buzzer system for the front door TCS at a quote of $4,995 and authorize the treasurer to execute the necessary contracts. This item would be paid for through grant funds that we need to spend before the end of September. So we have a short period where these funds need to be used up. We've got about $5,200 from a grant, safety grant this past year. And we've considered some other safety items that we'd like to look at, such as a PA system, but we're going to put that one off for now and then hopefully have some more grant funds maybe come in this next year. Because that one, $22,000, so that's a little more expensive. But this project aligns with the money that we do have currently for safety grant. Item R is a recommendation to have Stiffen Deluxe Services Incorporated repair a broken HVAC unit at a quote of $6,880 and to authorize the treasurer to execute the necessary contracts. And then finally, on the last page, item S is a recommendation to approve the 2021-2022 student handbook as presented. This was shared earlier in the week. I did not make physical copies for everyone since this is 50-page. This is the handbook for approval.
Did much change?
Just some small things here and there.
Okay. You know, go through it and compare, and I thought, I'm just gonna ask.
Just little things.
Very good. Are there any questions about the recommendations? If not, do I have a motion to approve items A through S of the superintendent's report?
I'll move.
Moved by Dora, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Israel. Roll please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards, Mrs. Solis,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Sorry. I would entertain a motion to move briefly into executive session to discuss the compensation of public employees. Is there a motion that would grant that?
So moved.
Second.
By Kent, seconded by Dora. Have the roll, please.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Solis,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. And rather than people leaving, oh, thank you very much for coming.
So you had
You guys can stay, and how about if the board members and Kelsey and Ryan just quickly go over, can we go into your office real quick?
Sure.
Okay. With no action having been taken. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the administrative salary as revised.
So moved.
Moved by Kent. Seconded by Dora. Any discussion? And just so that you would know is that that revision included the additional $8,000 for your discipline responsibilities. So that's where we ended up, okay? We'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Solis,
No.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Is there any other new business? Hearing none, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Moved by Ken,
Second.
seconded by Dora. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:01. Thank you very much.
Good.
And happy anniversary.